All right, it's time to harvest some Trinidad scorpion peppers. These things are over 1,000,000 Scoville units. Come join me in the chaos.
Join me in the chaos where the food forest thrives in the joy of growing. Our hearts come alive, embracing the mess where nature takes control.
All right, so these things are a cool looking pepper. And they're surprisingly hot even when they're green. These green scorpion peppers, extremely hot. But these red ones are just off the scale. Like, they're scary hot. Like, I cut one as an experiment and let it sit on the counter, and there's like this oil that collects at the incision site, and I just touched a drop of the oil and tasted it, and the oil itself isn't very flavorful, but I don't know how to describe how incredibly hot that concentrated oil is that collects on the edge of Trinidad scorpion peppers. Like, I don't know. It is like getting sprayed by pepper spray. Pretty insane. But anyway, these things actually are very flavorful. They're surprisingly sweet. Like, I already picked like a dozen scorpion peppers off of this guy. So I'm surprised how much this grew. This is only 1 year's growth. And if you don't know, pepper plants are perennial plants. If you can keep them alive during the winter, you can grow them for many years and they'll actually start lignifying. So at the bottom, you can kind of see how it's looking a little bit woody down here. And after a few years, you'll actually get some bark on them. It reminds me actually of a citrus tree. If you've grown citrus trees before, peppers kind of, the bark, it's reminiscent of that. But these scorpion peppers are just so cool. And if you've never seen the flowers on Trinidad scorpion, it looks very similar to other pepper plants. Get to focus. So last year I tried growing one of these in the house, and I don't think it was enough sun. Like, I had it in a sunny window and it would get flowers, but it never got fruit. And this year I grew one outside, and it's grown a ton of fruit. So pretty awesome. And some of these are surprisingly big. But yeah, if you ever make hot sauce with these, don't use a dozen of them. I might actually consider using other peppers that aren't so spicy, and then maybe just use like one of these, just to add heat to the entire, probably even a gallon. Like, it's just such an incredibly intense flavor. Like, if I want the right heat in my food, like whatever I put, because I like hot sauce in soup and eggs and things like that, like whatever you might use Tabasco sauce for, I'll use scorpion pepper sauce for. And I follow a similar recipe, except I use live culture apple cider vinegar, the kind that has the mother in it, which basically means it's a live vinegar. And so that'll actually ferment the pepper a little bit, but it just adds a lot of that very delicious, rich, full apple. It's hard to explain because it doesn't really taste like apple, but it just adds that warmth that apple gives. So if you've never tried growing pepper plants before, this is a fun one. So I'm in zone 6, and you can get a decent harvest. Like, I had people tell me that, oh yeah, you could grow peppers in Missouri, but you won't really get very many. And that's not my experience. So maybe I know I use a lot of mulch, but I think most people that do it, I mean, I've known some people that are able to grow peppers, don't get me wrong, but I feel like I have more people telling me they can't than they can. And it might just be luck, beginner's luck, or just comes with experience, I'm not sure. But I mean, plants don't really need that many things. If they have sufficient nutrients, they have water, and they have sunlight, it seems you can grow most plants. It's just that extra step of getting fruits a little bit more complicated. And I also did an experiment with this. So after that first wave of peppers, I tried them and they were pretty spicy. But then I started depriving this plant of water just to see what would happen. And after a few weeks, I tried the peppers and they're noticeably hotter. I'm not sure exactly how much hotter. I don't really know how to measure the capsaicin, but they're so hot that after picking the peppers, it was like icy hot on my hands. Like, these are incredibly hot and they will burn you right through your skin. I don't know if that's normal for hot peppers. I've only grown Carolina Reapers and scorpion peppers, which are roughly similar in spiciness. And I know the Carolina Reapers never burned my hands. So it's kind of cool and kind of scary. But if you love hot sauces like I do, and you don't want to pay like ridiculous prices like people sell, like when people make the artisan hot sauces, they charge you like, you know, $20 a bottle. And then one last thing that I forgot to mention about harvesting these things is you just have to commit to not touching your eyes once you start touching these peppers. So once you've touched a pepper, you just have to wash your hands really, really well. I think that might be a spider mite, I'm not sure. Interesting. And typically you're gonna want to use 2 hands when you're picking these. And I like to pick them in such a way that I don't damage the tree. They're sure weird looking though, aren't they? You can see the color difference too. They remind me of habaneros a little bit. Like when they don't do that little anything right there. Like that one reminds me of a habanero. But that looks more like the scorpion pepper. And it's cool how shiny they are. Like I didn't put anything on them, they're just naturally that way. And literally the only thing I do is just put a few inches of mulch. Probably like 6 inches of mulch. So I guess it is a lot of mulch. I just pull a little away from the trunk. And you gotta be super careful when you're harvesting the seeds too. What I usually do is do it like a jack-o'-lantern. Cut around the top and then I'll scrape out the seeds. And then I save the flesh for sauce. I think I might freeze some of these though because I just made like a gallon of hot sauce and it's really, really hot. So it's probably gonna last me a long time. So I'll probably harvest these seeds and then freeze the flesh, the spicy flesh. I've had people tell me the seeds are spicier, but I can tell you they're not in this particular plant at least. So I tasted one of the seeds as I was curious and they are spicy, but actually surprisingly not any hotter than a jalapeno seed or chili seeds. Like the chili seeds you put on your pizza, that's about how hot the seeds are in these peppers. Excuse me. But what's really hot is the flesh around where the seeds are, especially when you let it sit. So if you cut the seeds out and then you let that bundle in the middle just sit there, scrape all the seeds off, and that residual bundle that was sitting there, stick that in your mouth if you want something spicy. But it's not the seeds that are spicy, it's the tissue where the seeds were. I'm kind of curious why that is. It's kind of interesting. All right, and there they are. A whole bunch of Trinidad scorpion peppers. I mean, just eat the whole handful at once. Just kidding. It'd be such a waste. And I'd probably regret it for the next week.